Hello, and welcome to the Data Engineering Podcast, the show about modern data management. Have you ever woken up to a crisis because a number on a dashboard is broken and no one knows why, or sent out frustrating Slack messages trying to find the right dataset, or tried to understand what a column name means? Our friends at Atlan started out as a data team themselves and faced all this collaboration chaos. They started building Atlan as an internal tool for themselves. Atlan is a collaborative workspace for data-driven teams, like GitHub for engineering or Figma for design teams. By acting as a virtual hub for data assets ranging from tables and dashboards to SQL snippets and code, Atlan enables teams to create a single source of truth for all of their data assets, and collaborate across the modern data stack through deep integrations with tools like Snowflake, Slack, Looker, and more. Go to dataengineeringpodcast.com/Atlan today, that's ATLAN, and sign up for a free trial. If you're a Data Engineering Podcast listener, you get credits worth $3,000 on an annual subscription. When you're ready to build your next pipeline and want to test out the projects you hear about on the show, you'll need somewhere to deploy it, so check out our friends over at Linode. With their managed Kubernetes platform, it's now even easier to deploy and scale your workflows, or try out the latest Helm charts from tools like Pulsar, Pachyderm, and Dagster. With simple pricing, fast networking, object storage, and worldwide data centers, you've got everything you need to run a bulletproof data platform. Go to dataengineeringpodcast.com/Linode today, that's LINODE, and get a $100 credit to try out a Kubernetes cluster of your own. And don't forget to thank them for their continued support of this show. Your host is Tobias Macy, and today I'm interviewing Itamar Ben about Rivery, a SaaS platform designed to provide an end-to-end solution for ingestion, transformation, orchestration, and data operations. So Itamar, can you start by introducing yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for having me to bring a value for the data engineering community who are listening to us.
Do you remember how you first got involved in the area of working with data?
Yeah, actually, it's a long time ago. I always been passionate about the power of good data and good insight. Actually, in this space for more than 20 years. I'm building data warehouses for a living since 2002. In 2007, I founded my first company called Vision BI. It's a company that became to be a market leader as a BI consultancy in Israel. We used to manage many of the largest big data projects in the past decade. We built a lot of tools and utilities from data quality to Python frameworks, but we also kept the focus to bring in great things or great innovative solution in this space. I think that the best example is how we brought Snowflake in the very early days to Israel, and BI became to be one of the best partners in EMEA. A few years later, alongside to my role in Israel, I wanted to do something in a much bigger market. So I opened my second company, and with the acquisition of Kairos, which is a global data consulting company, this became to be what we call Kairos North America division. I led this organization from zero to over hundreds of engineers in several states, in several sites in North America. This company, we did things a bit different, mainly worked with enterprises, but we got a great recognition from market leaders like Alteryx. We were Partner of the Year globally, or Tableau, Emerging Partner of the Year in Americas. I think that given the fact that I used to work with hundreds of companies around the world, helping them to create their optimal data processes and data management stack, it's actually what brought us to create Rivery, which basically we try to take our deep knowledge in data processing into a native SaaS service.
Can you give a bit of an overview about what it is that you're building there now and what it is about this particular space of simplifying the work of managing ETL processes and delivering it as a service that is keeping you interested and motivates you to spend your time and energy there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we started Rivery. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Rivery. So my co-founders in the company, Aviv and Alon, they worked with me for many years in the previous company, and they came up with the idea to build Rivery right after completion of several big data projects in the Israeli tech industry. So at that time, we tried to find a kind of modern data stack in this space. We run all our projects in Python, since what we found in that the ETL, the legacy players such as Informatica and Talent that own this market, and even then you saw like tools like Tillions that came with the cloud, but Still, for us, it was the same functionalities, very similar, the same capabilities with the same persona, which is the BI developers. What we think that changing a lot now, especially we faced with lack of ability to scale and integrations scale with volumes. So what we did in Rivery is actually this brought us to the decision to build our first MVP. And if you will see the first MVP of Rivery, it was like 4 or 5 connectors with what we call the orchestration on top of it, like logic layer that run ELT service as a native SaaS. And we started on Google BigQuery. And from that point, we expanded to Snowflake and other cloud data warehouses. So the idea, what we really try to do here is to build a modern SaaS ELT to avoid the need of rebuild the same scaling processes, to maintain APIs, Python templates, and others. So we run this practice 2 years, 2018 and 2019 as a bootstrap. And in December 2019, once we saw that we are actually winning the new players in this space, so we decided to spin off the technology and take this company from a bootstrap into a venture company. So we raised our seed round in December 2019. And so in January 2020, just before COVID, we were 5 folks in Tel Aviv, myself in New York. But from that point, we never stopped. We grew a lot the business. Now it's hundreds of worldwide customers, over 75 employees up today. So Rivery is a very simple SaaS ELT. The way that we see it is the core and the backbone of the modern data stack. We handle the ingestion, transformation, orchestrations, even some use cases for reverse ETL, and capitalize everything in kind of the development lifecycle. Rivery's approach, our approach to data management is to focus on the valuable modeling and the insight that you can get out of the data. We want to eliminate a lot of challenges in the pipeline maintenance, and we used to call it maybe too naive. Focus on insight, we will do the rest.
As far as the overall goals of the Rivery platform and the company that you're building around it, you mentioned that you want to simplify the work of managing ELT processes so that people don't have to redevelop the same things over and over. And I'm curious if you can talk to the target personas that you have in mind as you're developing Rivery and some of the ways that you think about the different interaction points and workflows that you're trying to support for each of those different personas.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Maybe let's start with the goal, the primary goal. So the primary goal is to be the go-to solution that gives people the flexibility to manage ELT on the best way that they see it, whether that it's a no-code or low-code way for analysts or BI people, but also for data engineers with that required more heavy code processes like Python. We believe that once you bring the platform that provide you the two angles, it frees them to invest their time and energy in the focus of creating the new data models, better analysis of the data in new ways, by the way, and ultimately providing their organization with the insight they need in the shortest time and most efficient way. You mentioned the personas. This is really interesting because what we see is that as long as you are growing with the use cases around data and more companies growing and the data became to be in the heart of every organization, we see different persona that we didn't met before. So businesses, for example, they need Rivery to accelerate their time to value or time to insight and of course, support their scale. But with the rise of the data inside of the organization, you see like personas that software engineers or CTOs in the startups or marketing people, folks in the enterprise or product teams, that they need to improve their data platform, all the way to data analysts or BI developers that they need the infrastructure to deliver their insight via the cloud solution. But all of this is actually what we call the data citizens. What we are focusing on a daily basis when we want to present the product and the value of it, best way for us to show it is data engineers. As think about the data engineers as the people who needs to manage ELT processes in the most efficient way. So you don't want them to spend times and efforts on like external APIs or maintaining database schema according to hundreds of sources that they getting the data from. And they also don't need to be controlled 24/7 on the computing resources that they need to that require to run their scale. So we are helping them with these capabilities. I think that different roles in the organization might use different tools, and maybe this is why we see many tools in this space. But the thing is that, and again, I have 20 years experience, that everyone using the same data set. Maybe you're an analyst, but still you're using the same data set. You are a data scientist, you're running on the same data set in Snowflake or in BigQuery or whatever. So this is why we want to be able to cater people who needs both the no code, but also the heavy code. And this is why we launched, for example, the Python, because you must work on the same data set in order to have reliability and scale your business.
And as far as determining the scope of what you were trying to achieve with Rivery, I'm curious what you used as both positive and negative sources of inspiration for understanding what to try to encompass in this project, as well as how best to implement it and integrate it with existing tools and workflows.
I think that we are positive people. We're thinking only about the positive. So think about Lego, for example. We see the data engineers, they love building and ultimately really creative. And we wanted to create Rivery as a fun experience, a tools that you can play with. But at the same time is modular platform that can be shaped and used in infinite ways. We wanted to give data engineers the full flexibility and endless possibilities when working with a product. I cannot think about negative inspiration. I have one. If you think about our space, the legacy players, they did all in one. But with the shift to cloud and especially the SaaS, they miss something. They miss the new persona. They miss the infinite scale, the ease of use, and basically everything that you want to see as a SaaS. My inspiration is to build more capabilities in one tool and not necessarily running to buy 4 or 5 tools, but in the same time, make them for every function in the organization, make it best of breed for them.
As far as the approach that you've taken, it's definitely in contrast to where a lot of the industry has been focusing, particularly in the past couple of years, with all the attention that's gone into the quote unquote modern data stack of having these very narrowly defined tools and platforms that are intended to be composed together to form your full end-to-end flow. And I'm wondering what you see as the shortcomings of that approach of having these very narrow slices of functionality that are optimized for a particular use case, and then you have to do the picking and choosing across the entire life cycle of the data?
This is really great question because, and specifically to ask me on this one, because as I see it, this is our differentiations. Revolution not happening in 1 or 2 years. Revolutions takes 10 years to complete. So this is why I see this as a differentiation, because data stacks getting in like increasingly complex and harder to manage because the amount of the tooling that we are seeing today. And what is great for companies to specialize on a key pain point that can be solved with one niche stack, data stack, they often lack in a broader vision of the ecosystem and the required to get things done. So dealing with many tools, the way that I see it, across dozens of or even hundreds of pipelines means that there is a higher chance, to dealing with broken pipelines. In addition, thinking about the business models or the pricing model. So having to deal with multiple business models from the different tools makes it nearly impossible to predict the cost or technical monitoring, your data ecosystem as a whole. It's really hard to get there. What's more, and this is for me something that I think that people not yet paying a lot of attention to it, but the security risk involving of 5, 6 tools that you are basically transferring credentials, the most secure credentials to get the access to the data in the organization between several SaaS services. So overall, from opening a ticket to monitor everything and get the best cost-effective business, I think it's really hard for the organization. Not always they see it in the beginning of the revolution. Sometimes you buy a tool that doing the EL, and then you need to have another API that they don't support. So if you don't have the capability now, you need to buy another tool or you need to go to code. So in our case, we believe that we want to give them what we are doing in the right way and just works, but in the same time, giving them the possibility to grow. And I will give some example like we have in with DBT, for example, which is really amazing solution that built a lot of the community around it. It's really amazing. So we see many cases that are using Rivery and they decide not to use our transformation engine, decide to choose DBT, which is amazing. But again, it's second tool in the stack. It's not like 5, 6, 7 tools for every feature I need to generate. I will try to be polite and won't say that it's more a marketing message, not necessarily what the data engineers or the organization facing on a daily basis. It's a lot of hyper-growth companies that, got a lot of, which is great. They did a very good job in terms of self-service. But end of the day, this marketing message push the market to think that this is the reality, this is the only way to manage data. Think a bit different about that one.
Modern data teams are dealing with a lot of complexity in their data pipelines and analytical code. Monitoring data quality, tracing incidents, and testing changes can be daunting and often takes hours to days or even weeks. By the time errors have made their way into production, it's often too late and the damage is done. Datafold built automated regression testing to help data and analytics engineers deal with data quality in their pull requests. Datafold shows how a change in SQL code affects your data, both on a statistical level and down to individual rows and values before it gets merged to production. No more shipping and praying. You can now know exactly what will change in your database. Datafold integrates with all major data warehouses, as well as frameworks such as Airflow and DBT, and seamlessly plugs into CI workflows. Visit dataengineeringpodcast.com/Datafold today to book a demo with Datafold. In terms of the functionality that Rivery provides, what do you see as the either specific instances or categories of tools that it will replace, and what are the components of a data platform that it aims to supplement?
Our core capabilities is ingestion, transformation, and orchestration. So in the ingestion, we are competing and sometimes replace and sometimes competing head-to-head with tools like Fivetran. So in the ingestion, definitely we are having a strong competition there. They were before us, so this is why they are more mature than us in terms of the selling or the revenue. But in terms of the product, definitely we are giving a very good fight there. In terms of the transformation, we believe that people need to choose the way that they're running the transformation. So for me, you choose to work with our Python data frame, great. You want to choose with Snowpark UDF function, amazing. Do it. Rivery will orchestrate. We embedded this one in our solution. Same DBT, same Python, and same SQL. So Rivery, we want to give all the capabilities to work with any tool. So I think in the transformation, the way that I see it, it's not replacing no one. It's actually working together with them. In terms of orchestration, we see competition with tools like Airflow, so I think that our engine is strong enough to compete this space. Those are the core capabilities, and from that point, what we are trying to do is to leverage each one of the component to be the best of breed. When it comes to ingestion, for example, we don't support only the predefined report. We have 180 plus native connectors, exactly like Fivetran. I think that the overlap is around 85%, which is great. But in our case, when you need to have additional API or additional source that you want to get the data, you don't need now to go to code. You can go to code and write Python, but you can also use what we call our action or custom API function. It's more like Postman capabilities that you can get data, but mainly for the data ingestion purposes. We invested a lot in the CDC to compete on the hyperscale databases replication, whether if it's from cloud or from on-prem, that for companies that move to cloud. So this is the ecosystem that we see.
As far as the actual Rivery platform itself, can you talk through some of the design and architecture of how you went about implementing it?
The platform built as a multitask runners that get metadata and know to handle these tasks by the definition of the metadata that we get in from the metadata, whether if it's for the transformation or for the ingestion. Everything is dynamic and built as dynamic task, like all built to cloud, of course. The platform runs on Kubernetes, so we have the ability to scale up, scale down automatically and really in the most efficient way. Maybe good to focus on three core engines that we built that we are using as the foundation in our product. So first one is the CDC. I touched on this one. We built our real-time engine. From day one, we built it in stages. So in the beginning, it was started with multi-tables replications, like the legacy players like Talent or like other tools used to do, like select statement on top of the databases. But we did nice wizard that you can get all the tables right away. But then we saw that people need to manage the incrementals and everything. So we moved into the second version, which was CDC. We built an engine that runs, including some of the capabilities of the Debezium. We also, by the way, contribute to this great open source project. But recently, in the past few months, we actually took a step up because we saw that in the scale, there are some challenges in the Debezium that wasn't so good for us. So then what we did is that we built the core engine, the core CDC engine, and in order to reduce or eliminate all the limitations that we faced when we built the solution on top of Debezium. Second thing in the technology is, I think, differentiate a lot Rivery is the multi-tenancy. Everything in Rivery starts from a single tenant, which is, we call it in the platform environment. So every account in Rivery built by 1 to n environments or tenants. Each tenant include completely different content, different separate computing engine behind the scene, from users, variable, workflows, connections, metadata engine, everything runs on a single tenant. Why it's so good and why it's so strong, aside the fact that you can scale, it's actually support the data engineers and the architect when they want to build their solution. The enterprise scales means that there were governance, deployment. This serves the engineers use case from building the development, QA, production environments, or just building a sandbox from scratch and deploy the entire solution to a new branch or a new sandbox. We see that partners that the SI partners, they want to shift their business into fully managed or managed service, what they call. And for them, we see a lot of use cases of SI partners that took this solution and built a multi-tenant or multi-environment. So every account that they are managing the data workflows for them, it's actually a single tenant, but they have the full account with the templates that now they can deploy their practices and the data models between their accounts. But once completing the deployment, then they can make a tailored modification in the single tenant. This is really strong capabilities. The third engine, it's about how we are managing the API and the ingestion. So to be honest, every data engineers will tell you that to build an API and get the data, it's not such a complex mission, to be honest. The biggest challenge is how to do it at scale, how to get the great performance, and of course, to have the built-in validations to get the most qualified data set. So one of the most important decisions, I think, that we made in the early days was that we want to build everything in-house and support A to Z, the ingestion, even though it sometimes is hard because you are sitting on a sales call and you support only 60-70% of the APIs that the customer needs. We still insist to develop everything and not using other third-party. People used to tell me, hey, take seed data drivers and embed it inside of your solution. It will scale your business. I told them that, yeah, I agree. But eventually, I'm so happy because the fact that we didn't take this shortcut helped us in three ways. One, in the way that we are independent to support any required improvement when changing the APIs, and it's happening pretty frequently. We know to address any change, and we are not depends on any other vendor. So we know that we can improve everything, performance, quality, by our engineers and not required involvement of other vendors. Second is the security. The security is really important thing for us, and all the responsibility goes to our, we are holding most critical credentials managed in our system. So we need to make sure that it's managed well, encrypted, and of our highest security standards. The third way is a bootstrap. As I mentioned, we were bootstrap for 2 years, over 2 years and a bit more. We didn't have a lot of money. So this is actually made our ability and enforce us to take our ability of development to the edge, the way that we can speed up the development. So the results we exposed what we call the Action River, which is the custom connectors. Still, you can build with this feature a custom API with no code, because we use it internally and we just expose it to our audience. So if we don't have an API that we are using internally, so over 60% of our customers using it, and it's just like 1.5 years on air, means that hundreds of customers using it. And also, the fact that we built a strong infrastructure help us to close the gap, like from 0 to 190 plus connectors, like our main competitors in that space, which is Fivetran. And the idea is that we will be able to scale more and more, because the infrastructure that we build behind the scene of this API management we believe that it's more mature and let's say, help us to do it really fast.
In terms of the overall design and goals of the platform, you mentioned that you went through a few different stages of development and iteration, and I'm wondering how the early ideas and assumptions about what you wanted to do with the platform, what customers wanted out of it, how well they've stood up and how they have evolved in the process of going to market and working with your design partners.
We designed the platform to deal with the simple problem of maintaining data pipelines. But when time moved on and we started to see more and more requirements from our users, or including other core processes of the ELT, like including the orchestration, transformations, and in the transformation we added the example that we added the Python. So I think that, and the example that I gave you with the APIs or the CDC, so not every time that we are launching a feature is immediately we see results, but I think that we are trying to make it together with our customers, because our customers, we are customer obsessed, and our customers and our users are the most important thing for us. So what we are trying to do is that every simple MVP, we want to make it just works. And doing with the design partners, we always picking up like several customers to be kind of private view and design partners for every new features, because we want to get the feedback right away. We don't want them to wait until we will develop the feature, the full capabilities, and then see that there's no value. I think we did it. We had the luck that we were a bootstrap, so that was in our DNA. If I'm thinking about 2018, 10 of our customers, like 10 customers we had at that time, like Yellowhead, WalkMe, Dynamic Yields, even AB InBev, huge company, or Minute Media, they, based on their demand and their requirements, we modified the platform. And guess what? All of them are still great partners. Cannot call them customers, even it's really true partners for us. As a startup, we want to make sure that we are making adaptations and adapt to market changes and demand. So in the way that our product features comes with via our customers, testing the new product ideas is a key for us. That way we can quickly react, sometimes drop a feature and improve it before going live with everyone. Again, the Python or how we develop the CDC or the environment, those things came from our audience, from the customers.
Particularly given the fact that you were, at least initially, bootstrapped, I'm wondering what you used as your criteria for determining what the initial product scope needed to be to ensure that you could prove out the ideas that you had and how well they would work in real-world situations while still being achievable in a reasonable amount of time.
First of all, we are not bootstrap anymore. Just to clarify, we funded, now closing our B round, actually a massive B round. So What we are trying to, as I mentioned before, maybe it sounds reputable, but it's taking a need, what we believe. We have our own roadmap. We came from this industry. We are 20 years doing this mission of building data management. So we have our own vision, but in a North Star. But in the same time, we are working with hundreds of customers. It's a luxury. It's really luxury. We have self-service practice or pay-as-you-go. Just in the past, since we launched it like 2 months, over 40 accounts using these capabilities. And we see how the consumption growing with them. And what we are investing a lot is to how to make their life and their onboarding much easier. So everything that we are doing is really closed for the usage. This is our biggest advantage. And by the way, not only us, it's an advantage of any SaaS platform like Snowflake, like BigQuery. The fact that you are a SaaS and you have all the logs and everything, you don't need to jump on a ticket and asking the customer to send you a log. You see everything and you know how to be proactively to help them to get things done. So we are trying to be a data company to help our customers with the data that we have. Something that one customer failed in about a minute, we are going to see it in other customers, so we can prevent this one upfront.
Another interesting element of your business and your product is that being a managed service, it has a different path to adoption than what a lot of organizations, particularly in recent years, have been doing with the open source, bottom-up, engineer-led adoption strategy. And I'm curious how you've been thinking about your approach, if you're aiming for bottom-up adoption by getting in with engineers to solve a particular pain point, or if you're looking to go more top-down by working with senior leadership and engineering management to help to solve problems at more of the organizational level.
I think that if I need to build a company again, maybe I will choose to build it in an open source and then jumping into the commercial side of things. But because we are through selling to the data engineer, we are selling actually to the individual that actually working with the platform. So the way that we solve it, since we are not an open source, what we are doing is we launched 2 months ago or 3 months ago the pay-as-you-go program, which is, you can start really small and paying, I don't know, dozens of dollars a month if your consumption is pretty low. And we are going to take it another step further. Like in the next 2 weeks, you are going to see our pricing model and how this pricing model works well with this one. I won't give all the details about that one, but this is actually a big improvement that we are doing as a product-led growth company, as a company that's selling a software to the data engineers and the individual. And yeah, so several things there, like this is what we want to do. About the open source and the community, we do believe, and we're already having these discussions inside of the company, that to take some of the capabilities that we have and make them as an open sources. We believe on this one. We, as I mentioned, we contribute to the Debezium at the time that we use this one. We want to contribute to the community with some elements that we are having in the platform. We did it, but not in the way that we want to do it. And we see ourselves doing it. And it's going to grow this exposure in the coming months.
Another interesting aspect of building a business in the data ecosystem at all is the rapid rate of change and evolution that it's been going under. And I'm curious how your focus on being an end-to-end option for data engineers and data teams, watching the surrounding ecosystem go through its own shifts of kind of reinvention and self-discovery, has either validated or influenced the product direction that you're focused on?
I will take it for 3 parts. One is data is product. We strongly believe on this one that, moving from data teams that, we count them as a service oriented inside of the organization to actually a team that acting like a product team that creating an internal product, internal or external product that rely on data. The increase of support for the data stack, development lifecycle, for example, the multiple environment and the deployment, this is basically we brought those foundation and those capabilities into this approach. So we really believe on the data is product. And to get there, You need to have a scale, deployment, environment, management, like APIs, CLI, everything that you expect to see in the development lifecycle. Second thing is what we see a wider range of people and personas that involved in the data team. So what we see in the company is that there is no one size fit to all. And we need to support different types of persona. So you can be an analyst or BI person that you can get everything via the GUI into, via the UI and doing like low code. Low code, we call it as an SQL, but you can get APIs, you can run SQL and building tables and schema automatically by the product, which is great. Or using, by the way, dbt in that case. But for the data engineers and data scientists, we want to empower them. And this is why we came up with industry first standard, like Python as a standard in the pipeline. No one doing it in the industry. Many folks that really expert in this space, and when they saw what we build there, that in one workflow you can get data from ingestion, running transformation, whatever preferred tool that you choose for transformation, then you have all the tables and the structure in the data warehouse, let's say Snowflake. But now in the same workflow, in the same pipeline, you get the data set from Snowflake, set it into a data frame, running machine learning, and bring back from the data frame as a source back to the Snowflake, and from that point to the endpoint applications. So we believe that our responsibility in this market, especially once the enterprise will go more and more, they need to have tools that they can scale, commercial, education, and all capabilities. Last thing, last but not least, is the end-to-end. Talk a lot about that, the end-to-end versus the multiple tools. So again, the market pushed by a lot of messaging about for this you need to use this tool, and for this mission you need to do this one. I'm sure that the right balance of breadth and the depth in our functionality, we believe that Rivery can fully handle the foundation, which is ingestion, orchestration, or transformation, and even some other use cases, more complex one that you need to have the Python for it. But we are not so fanatic to do everything, and we give you the possibility to use everything in Rivery, but in the same time, you can get this enterprise needs, enterprise capabilities like reliability, agility, scalability, and security. And so I think that we are trying to give you everything, but again, freedom to connect everything. Since we have an API, since we are a CLI company, definitely you can connect and integrate your other tools into this stack. But we believe that this is the stack that's going to lead the industry for the next couple of years when it comes to data operation or data as product, as we spoke before.
As far as the actual workflow and getting started with Rivery and incorporating it into your day-to-day efforts of building and managing data systems, I'm wondering if you can just talk through the overall steps of saying, I need to be able to build this new data workflow that's ingesting from whether it's an API or a set of databases or multiple different sources, load it all into a set of tables in my data warehouse or my data lake, and then orchestrate the transformations for being able to provide a resulting database view for downstream consumption, and just all of the sort of capabilities and touch points along the way for data engineers and any sort of collaboration capabilities for being able to manage that handoff from preparing the data to being consumed by downstream analysis.
It's actually very easy getting into the product. Immediately, what you will see is like the ability to start building your pipeline within minutes. So basically, you can choose one of the native connectors, or you choose to go what we call kits, which is data models templates built by people like you, like the data engineers, or mainly by our partners, and that took specific use cases and repeatable use cases and put the predefined data models or the pre-engineered data models. So you can use the kit, you can use your connector to run transformation. If you're familiar with dbt, bring dbt in. If you're familiar with SQL, you run the transformation. And if you're running Python, so that's great. You don't need to now to bring a machine and building Spark machine and everything. You can just define a data frame, which is basically one definition, the name of the data frame. And that's it. Once you have this in the platform, you just need to define what is the computing engine that you want to have for this purpose. So the product itself is a self-service. I don't believe that data engineers are getting into the trials, and we see it actually as a fact that majority of them succeeding to build the first river within minutes. This is another KPI that we are measuring ourselves or our company. We have what we call sign-up workflows. We are measuring on a every day with Slack alerts how long it took them to succeed to build their river and what is the overall experience in that mindset. So it's definitely our main focus as a PLG company.
One of the interesting features that you have is a catalog of kits for being able to manage that reusability and avoiding rework, like you were mentioning at the beginning of the conversation, and being able to use these to get common workflows set up quickly and be able to have sort of a catalog of functionality for the organization. And I'm wondering if you can talk through how you manage regression and integration testing for those kits as the Rivery platform evolves, or as the sort of goals and governance structures for an organization change once they've started to adopt and become more sophisticated with Rivery.
First of all, we have a process for this one. We have a dedicated team. It's the kits team inside of Rivery. And there are basically engineers that work in to build the kits, sometimes with customers, sometimes with partners. And then from that point, we are maintaining them. Like even today, I saw in the Slack that we launched the intercom as a native connector, which is great. The second message was, okay, now we can remove the kits that we built for our customers so far that used by Action River, that custom connector. So now we can remove this one because we have everything in the native. So it's helped. Our kits include both the business logic and the technical setup that required for a workflows. But beautiful thing that first of all, everyone can build the kits. You can build kits internally, not necessarily must go to our public library. So this can include the SQL script, the data models, the Python script, the other tools like the dbt package, the source and target connections definition, pipelines, workflows, everything. So the good thing is that because you have all the capabilities, it's doable, and this is how we came to this one. But on top of this one, it's really important to show that while the business logic is custom written for each kit, the underlying functionality uses our standard out-of-the-box functionalities. Means that in this way, we don't need to update every kit, or they don't need to update everyone when changing the underlying connections or the component when the component is getting updated. The most amazing things with kits is that first, every user can build it. It can be kit internally that you can deploy in between your tenant. We encourage the community, companies, and individual to build their kits in the library, mainly because we want to build a community, not it's not a question. We are going to build a community around that one. We are going to monetize that one. So everyone, companies and individual in the space can actually bring their know-how into the kits. And from that point, they will get part of the revenue that we are seeing based on consumption. So if you think about that, this will be the community version of Rivery.
Are you struggling with broken pipelines, stale dashboards, missing data? If this resonates with you, you're not alone. Data engineers struggling with unreliable data need look no further than Monte Carlo, the leading end-to-end data observability platform. Trusted by the teams at Fox, JetBlue, and PagerDuty, Monte Carlo solves the costly problem of broken data pipelines. Monte Carlo monitors and alerts for data issues across your data warehouses, data lakes, dbt models, Airflow jobs, and business intelligence tools, reducing time to detection and resolution from weeks to just minutes. Monte Carlo also gives you a holistic picture of data health with automatic end-to-end lineage from ingestion to the BI layer directly out of the box. Start trusting your data with Monte Carlo today. Go to dataengineeringpodcast.com/Monte Carlo to learn more. In terms of the ways that people have been using Rivery and applying it to their particular organizations and problems, what are the most interesting or innovative or unexpected ways that you've seen it used?
Yeah, I will mention three cases. So one day I got a call. I think it was 2018. We were a really small team. It was a Fortune 500 company. It's in our website, and everyone knows this company. And they were the biggest sponsor of the World Cup at that year. And they came to us, like, called me to my mobile. My mobile was in the website at that time. The guy was global director of marketing in this giants, and he called me and asked me, look, in about 1 month, we have the World Cup. We are the main sponsor. The CEO going to be there, 40 people. It's going to be a war room, 5 agencies. Okay, what do you need? And he told me, I need to build a digital data lake. We tried to do it internally for many months, and we see that the high frequency of updates from the APIs dropping what we are building every time. And actually, at that day, Facebook changed dramatically their APIs because of all the compliance and regulation at that week's exactly. So I told him, yeah, we will do our best. We helped them to build really an amazing digital data lake. Within 1 month, we actually built 8 APIs at Miles only to support their needs. And it was one of the most successful projects there. The second use case that also surprised me was like MAR, the case study also in our website. And MAR Properties is real estate companies, but not only real estate, it's the experience of shopping and malls and the e-commerce in Dubai. So they came to us from the Snowflake Partner Connect, if you're familiar with this one. So we were one of the first 5 software SaaS platform there. So they came into the Rivery and they wanted to have some small use case to how the experience in their stores and malls, what is the engagement with their consumers. So they started with this one, and after 3 months, they called us or sent us an email. We need to do a security check. And I was afraid. The things that you are afraid the most is security. And we asked them in the email, yeah, no problem. But something happened. No, it's really amazing. But we are working with the product 3 months, and what we see is that we want to expand the use case to overall replace our legacy engines when it comes to database replication. At that time, they moved to Snowflake and they built big migration from on-prem databases to Snowflake, and of course, Salesforce integrated and everything. So those kind of things that you are not expecting as a 5 folks company to work with these giants. And this is, I think, was the reason that I believe that, look, something big going on in this space. You must be responsible for those customers. You need the money to grow. You need to develop this engine in a more efficient way. And this is why we decided to do the spin-off. Lately, we see a lot of use cases. We have an hedge fund here in the East Coast that they built A to Z solution for their portfolio of companies. And they're using Rivery for the ingestion and transformation. They're using dbt packages for the transformation. And now they were one of our partners, and they added the machine learning piece with a Python. So now they have the full solution that they can basically empower their portfolio of companies. And we were able to build maybe the most comprehensive pipelines that manage and orchestrate by Rivery, but again, including other tool in the stack. If you have the favorite tool, bring it in and use it, especially if it's in open source.
In your own experience of building and scaling this company and working with your customers, what are some of the most interesting or unexpected or challenging lessons that you've learned in the process?
So every day you have a challenge because you want to be better. Every day the times is running, the times is fly, and we are doing a lot of efforts to make Rivery as the industry standard. And it's not easy because we came a bit late when you check the timelines, what we encourage the community to check this out and check only if we are much better than the competitors. Just on this one, give us a shot. So I think that this is the majority of the focus, because when you are doing right things, look, our churn rate is less than 2%. It's really low. And you can imagine that these 2% were a few customers that were really low volume. And we actually never succeed to grow there. Sometimes we lost a champion, sometimes it's whatever. But We are working day and night to make our customers happy. We believe that with the efforts that we are doing in the PLG, the new pricing model that we are about to share in very few weeks, and the entire boarding processes, we believe that the exposure of the company will be pretty high. And we have a lot of credibility. We have a strong partnership with Snowflake, as I mentioned, Partner Connect, embedded in Partner Connect, Premier partnerships, and also the validation process. One of the earliest companies that did the same with Google. We are doing now with the same with AWS and being a part of this marketplace. So all of these efforts, I remember to mention the strong project, a really ambitious project that we made with Databricks. They launched their data lake as an SQL on top of Databricks. This is definitely, they saw a value in Rivery, came out to us and told us, we want to put you in as the one of the early adopters of the Partner Connect. We were only 3 players there. We were one of the first one. We are working day and night with, first of all, for our customers and prospects, then working really, really hard to get the exposure out there. Yes, it's not easy because you're competing with giants, but if you're good, you have the confidence that you will get there sooner or later, but better sooner.
And for people who are looking for a way to manage their full extract, load, transform, orchestration, what are the cases where Rivery is the wrong choice and maybe they're better suited with a different fully vertically integrated solution, or actually picking and choosing and using multiple different tools for each of those different stages?
So as I mentioned, we want to be best of breed in each one of the capabilities, but the wrong choice if you want to do this mission, but in non-cloud, even more non-SaaS. Sometimes we're having a prospect that coming in and say, wow, it's amazing, we like it, but we want to buy the software when we want to install the software on top of our servers. No, it's not doable. I guess that Snowflake had the same challenge. When moving from Teradata to Oracle, we all owing a lot to Snowflake about the way that they insist, I guess, to keep their solution as a SaaS. We are SaaS. We are not on-prem. We are not a software company. We are SaaS. What we are doing day and night is experience of a SaaS. So if you are not ready to use a SaaS ELT, I think that's better not to call us, let's say, and because it will be wrong decision for them, because we will insist to run as a SaaS with all of the required security, whether it's virtual private links or SSH, SSO, or everything that we have in place. We certified and compliance by everything, or HIPAA or SOC 2 or anything that you need. You want to see our architecture, how we are encrypting the data, and how we are managing our security. Excellent. We will help you to get there. It's all up there in our website and in our blogs and our content. And if you need to speak with engineer, we will speak with engineer. But we will never take the amazing solution that we built here as a SaaS into a mode that is going to be a software, because we won't be good at that one.
As you continue to build and grow and work with your customers, what are the things you have planned for the near to medium term of Rivery?
So I think I touched that one when we spoke about the kids. We want to continue to build the community, basically like-minded people that passionate for data as we are. So we want them to build more kits, and it's not just building and anything about that one. It's basically to build a community, a collaboration between companies, between individuals. And for that one, we're also going to basically finding the right monetization model in order to make sure that we will drive the growth of this one. The second piece is improving the integration or working on integration with other, let's say, data catalog, enterprise data catalog, companies like Colibra or like Alation. When we are coming to enterprise, the first question is how we can get the metadata that exists in Rivery or the lineage that exists in Rivery, how can I see it in my tool? So now they can do it with Action or the REST API, custom API that we have, or via our API or CLI engine, or to get the logs directly there. But the goal is to have one-click integration with those tools. We are not going to replace enterprise data catalog. Data catalog is not only around the ETL piece. It's all over the place in data. So we want to help them to get the data that we have that existing in our repository and empower their users to see how beautiful the lineage looks like when you're running in Rivery.
Are there any other aspects of the Rivery platform or the overall space of building data products and offering them as a service that we didn't discuss yet that you'd like to cover before we close out the show?
I believe that down the road, we will see more, again, part of the DataOps product, we will see more native integrations with machine learning tools. And because with tools like Rivery and both Fivetran and other players that giving you the flexibility and the self-service experience, by definition, it's pushing the people to analyze and know better their data. And I think that this trend will push for more machine learning and AI tools that I think that down the road, it will be native integrations between the backend tools like Rivery or like other ETL tools into the brain, which is the machine learning or collaboration tools that existing out there.
All right. Well, for anybody who wants to get in touch with you and follow along with the work that you're doing, I'll have you add your preferred contact information to the show notes. And as a final question, I'd like to get your perspective on what you see as being the biggest gap in the tooling or technology that's available for data management today.
So I think that, companies like us or like the other emerging technologies, we are trying to cover all the gaps that you see in the market. I don't think that there is now any specific unique gap. I don't want to say it didn't solve. I think that what we try to do with the Python is actually the first step. And I guess that other companies will follow us on this one and be able to, bring the Python into the data pipelines and make everyone like working on the same data set. To build a fragmented solution, it's not the right way when you're speaking about single source of the truth or thinking about building the right way to building the data warehouse or data processes in the organization. So I think that a lot of companies will follow us. I think that in the next 5 years, you won't see the same picture as you see now. You won't see so many tools. What you will see is consolidations. You will see that even a company like Fivetran, I believe that won't look the same. It will maybe buy other companies and reduce the number of players that you will see in this industry, and going back to the place that you have 1, 2, or 3 data stack. I don't believe that every feature deserves to be, let's say, an industry.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time today to join me and share the work that you've been doing at Rivery. It's definitely a very interesting platform, great product for people who are looking for a more unified flow to their data lifecycles. So I appreciated all the time and energy that you and your team have put into that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Tobias. Thank you. I really enjoyed this session. Thank you so much.
Listening. Don't forget to check out our other show, podcast.init, at pythonpodcast.com to learn about the Python language, its community, and the innovative ways it is being used. And visit the site at dataengineeringpodcast.com to subscribe to the show, sign up for the mailing list, and read the show notes. If you've learned something or tried out a project from the show, then tell us about it. Email hosts at dataengineeringpodcast.com with your story. And to help other people find the show, please leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends and coworkers.